Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, how are you?
Good, good. How's everyone?
Doing well, thank you for joining. Who else has joined?
I'm the first.
I'm
No.
first.
Oh.
Auntie is first.
Hi. Hare Krishna, Yogini Mataji.
Thank
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good, good.
That's nice. Very nice.
Who else has joined? Haribol.
Hari Bol. Hari Bol prayer.
Hare Bol.
Haribol.
Mandakini auntie. Now that I know your name, I'm going to say it more loudly. I'm early.
Prem Chaitanya Prabhu joined. Hare Krishna, Prem Chaitanya Prabhu. Haribol.
Oh yeah, herbal tea. Yeah. You took that pomegranate stuff.
Okay, almost time.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol. Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Bol. Hare Krishna. Oh, Hare Krishna, Manasi Mataji Prabhu, Auntie.
Haribol. Hare Krishna, Kinjal Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Please tell me there are more pastels.
All right, everyone ready?
Yes.
Did anyone read the fourth chapter or some of it at least? And raise your hand. You did. A little bit?
A little bit.
Yes. Okay. Good. So from whoever read, can you mention just one point that you remember? Yeah, go ahead.
Actually,
You're not
Prabhu
very
is
good.
just, I think chapter 3, I think it's Krishna who said, I'm not sure, there are only two kinds of devote. Is it men? One is a devotee and one is a demon. Is it right? Or I'm not sure. Let me double check. So I'm just wondering, what does it mean? Yeah, there are two classes of men. One is devotee and one is the demon.
Which verse is that?
It's chapter 3. I think it's in chapter 3. Let me see.
Yeah, we're talking about chapter 4.
Oh, yeah, chapter 4. No, chapter 4, verse 3.
Okay. Yes, that's in the purport. In the purport. Good point. The point of the verse was that Krishna explained to Arjuna, I'm explaining this to you because you're my devotee and you're my friend. And purport explained. Good point. Anyone else? Anything else that you remember in the reading? Okay, if not, we just get started. Okay, so welcome all of you. Welcome Minash Prabhu. Pavitra Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome. We've got everyone.
Who is this 80?
Who's 80?
It is me.
Anand Prabhu. Anand Tiwari. Yeah.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Welcome.
80
Hare Krishna.
एक और टीम मिस हो रहा है.
All right. So we will get started on chapter 4 today. It's a very important chapter. Lots of memorizable and memorable verses. And so I'll give some homework in today's class that you should take home and memorize a couple of those verses. the screen. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Okay, so we're starting chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita as it is. So this chapter is entitled, in the book is entitled Transcendental Knowledge. Okay. Or it can also be called the Path to Wisdom. I just want to make sure, hold on, is this, yeah. So Arjuna starts out the questioning and he asks, it seems that wisdom is the key. In the last 2 chapters, Krishna is focusing on the importance of intelligence, wisdom, knowledge, etc. So it seems that wisdom is the key. With it, I can become spiritually centered and free from attachment to pleasure and displeasure, happiness and distress, success and failure. So, how to become wise? What is the path to wisdom? That's Arjuna's opening question. And then Krishna says, look, ultimately, wisdom comes from me. For example, I have been teaching you the yoga of practical philosophy. But what I'm teaching you now is not something new. It is contained in sacred texts and is embedded in our culture, because many saintly kings have already learned this subject. That's an important point. Who is the source of all this knowledge? Krishna. It comes from me. All this Bhagavad Gita science I'm teaching you, it's coming from me. It's not that I learned it from somewhere. No, no. The ultimate source is me. That is a key point. And then he gives a history. Who are these saintly kings I'm talking about? Krishna says, ultimately, they learned it from the ancient king Ikshvaku. Ikshvaku learned it from his father Manu, who learned it from Vivaswan, the sun god, who learned it from me. Those of you who know, Lord Ram is also known as Ikshvaku Vanshi, the one who was born in the dynasty of Ikshvaku. He's also known as Surya Vanshi, because Ikshvaku comes in the dynasty of the sun god. So you can see in the picture over here, the sun god, where Krishna talks to the sun god, that's the sun god Vivaswan. Vivaswan manave praha, manur ikshvakave bravi. So Krishna spoke to Vivaswan, who spoke to Manu, and Manu spoke to, no, sorry. Yeah, Manu spoke to Ikshvaku, that's correct. So Krishna, Vivaswan, Manu, Ikshvaku.
Sun God.
Yeah. Sun God, he's here. This sun God over here. Okay. So Krishna is explaining this is the system of parampara. Evam parampara praptam imam rajarshayo vidu. Rajarshayo means the saintly kings. Raj Rishi. Raj means king and Rishi means very saintly. The kings are not ordinary kings. They're very wise kings. And they've been thoroughly trained in how to be wise. And the wisdom, the knowledge, is provided by Krishna. So Krishna says, as wisdom passes from one teacher to the next, it gradually becomes distorted, diluted, and eventually forgotten. Therefore, I, the original teacher, have to periodically reintroduce this original science. And today I will do just that by teaching it to you. Okay, so what Krishna is, he's explaining the effect of time. That yes, I spoke it to the sun god millions of years ago. And then again, I'm speaking it to you, and I come again and again to speak it. Because the nature of time is that knowledge gets degraded and forgotten. Yoga bhrashta vijaya. The bhrashta means it gets corrupted, broken, and so on. So Arjuna says, what? You're going to speak to me? I mean, you spoke to sun god, now you're going to speak to me. What is my qualification? Am I qualified to understand what you're teaching? And Krishna says, of course. In fact, you have the main important qualities. You are devoted to me, and you are my friend. So that's the point that Vivian Mataji was making earlier. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that there's two kinds of people, the demoniac and the devotee. So the devotee are friendly to Krishna. They're devoted to Krishna. And that's the person who's eligible to understand this secret. Therefore, you can certainly comprehend the ultimate secrets I will explain. You see, so right off the bat, even to understand the Bhagavad Gita, we need to have a friendly attitude toward Krishna, and we need to have a devotional attitude toward Krishna before we understand the Gita. Otherwise, we can't understand it. So Krishna is saying, these are the qualifications. That's why I'm telling you, you are the most qualified. Not that you have 7 PhDs or you're a great scholar. No, 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 no. No, scholarship is not a requisite at all. What is requisite? Bhakto sime sakha cheti. Then he says, I explained to you, these are rahasyeta uttamam. Rahasya means this is a secret. Why secret? Secret means not everybody will understand. It's coded. People may read it. And people who read Bhagavad Gita, but they won't understand the point. They'll try to put Krishna aside and they'll miss the whole point of the Gita. That is why it's a secret. Even people who read it don't get the point. Okay, then Arjuna is a little confused, scratching his head. Okay, listen, I know you're not that old, Krishna. Please explain how you could have taught anything to the sun god who was born a very, very long time before you. You know, sun god is millions of years old. How could you have explained to him back then? Then Krishna explains that, look, I have passed through many births and so have you. The difference is that I am aware of all of them, but you are not. So he comes back to the original point he made in chapter 2, that you're eternal, I am eternal. But I don't forget all the different avatars, all the different births that I've taken. But you do. That's the difference. So here we see some sampling of Krishna's different avatars, Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Narsimha, Vamana, Parshuram, Ram, Balaram, and there's Krishna, and then there's, I guess this just is some sampling. There are many, many. Krishna's incarnations are not limited to 5, 10, 15, 20. No, he has unlimited incarnations. This is just a small sampling. So Arjuna asks, how is it that you remember while I forget? How is that? You forget because you invest your consciousness into an external body, which is always in the process of disappearing. Thus, your memories fade. So you are part of this circle of life and death. And part of that is your hard drive keeps getting rebooted and mostly wiped out. Only the BIOS remains, only the operating system remains, but all the other things get wiped out. They just keep fading. So I'm not the same as you. I only seem to have a body, like a material type body. I only seem to have a body. But the truth is that I'm never born and I never age. Ajopi san abhyayatma bhutanam ishvaropi san prakritim swamadhisthaya sambhavami atmamaya. This body is atmamaya. I am the master of everything. I am the proprietor of everything. And this body is my eternal own manifestation of the power within my own self. Sambhavami atmamaya. I am the source of myself eternally. Whereas your body comes from material nature and gets dissolved. My body is not like that. This is a very important point. Go back. So why do you take the trouble of manifesting yourself within this world? Arjuna asks. And then this is the very famous verse. It says, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutthanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Okay, so yada yada, whenever and wherever there is the paths of morality, the dharma glanir. Glani means the decline. And the adharma becomes very prominent, overgrown by weeds of immorality and confusion. So the path of morality is overgrown by the weeds of immorality and confusion. And this is the effect of time. Then I come again and again. So here we see some of these examples. So Krishna comes to re-establish morality. So what? How are you going to do that? To repave the moral paths? How is that you do? Arjuna asks. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. So paritranaya sadhu. So here we see the sadhu is Prahlad Maharaj. Sadhu means those who are devotees of the Lord. To save them, to protect them, to give them some relief, also to give them the personal mercy. Prahlad Maharaj was already being protected. Hiranyakashipu tried so many ways to kill him. He wasn't being successful. So Prahlad Maharaj was already being protected even before Nrsimhadev came. Right? But paritranaya sadhu, but in addition to protection, also to interact with them, to give them some merciful pastimes, some merciful memories, some good experiences one-on-one, quality time. It's like spend quality time with our children. This is how the Lord spends quality time with his children. He comes down, he gives his mercy and interacts. He puts Prahlad Maharaj on his lap like he's feeding him, like a parent does. Lakshmi Devi is back there, she's watching. So this is Krishna's love for his devotees. Paritranaya sadhunam. And then destroying the dushkrite. Dushkritam is the demoniac, those who do not walk on the path of righteousness, those who are destroying the paths of righteousness. Those people, Krishna comes to, repeatedly comes and destroy them. So then Arjuna asks, do people avail themselves of the wisdom and morality that you establish? Do they take advantage of all this knowledge that you're giving? And Krishna says, yes, many people do. Janma karma chame divyam evam yo veti tattvata tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti sorjana. Those who understand that I am not an ordinary person, those are the kind of people who take advantage. They avail themselves of my teachings. And if you, Arjuna, you understand that my birth and my deeds are spiritual, they're divine, they're transcendental, then you will also avail yourself of what I have to offer. Otherwise, you will not. You will not take it seriously. First, recognize that I'm not an ordinary person. You can see when Krishna was born in the jail, right? He's a little baby, but he also showed his four-armed Narayan form, making very clear right off the bat, he's not an ordinary person. Janma is birth. This is Janma. And his karma, his activities. He's dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. He's killing massive and huge demons like Aghasura and Trinavrata and Bakasura. Even as a child, even as a baby, he killed Putana. So these are not ordinary. These are very divine, spiritual, transcendental activities. So if you understand Janma karma chame of mind, is Janma karma, that they are divine. Evam yo veti tattvata. You know them in truth. Then what happens? Then Krishna explains later. So Arjuna asks, what happens to those people who take advantage of the wisdom, who avail of the wisdom? They do not take birth, another birth. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti so Arjuna. They don't take another birth when they leave their body. Tyaktva deham punarjanma. Tyaktva means to leave, and deha means the body. When they leave the body, punarjanma they will not take. Tyaktva deham punarjanma naiti mameti. They'll come to me. And not just one or two, it's not that rare actually. He says, Right after this is Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha Manmaya Mamapashita Bahavo Jnana Tapasa Putamad Bhavam Agata. Bahavo, many have come. Many people have taken advantage of Bhagavad Gita and they have come, they've done so. When the hearts become so enraptured by knowing me, it becomes so easy for them to tolerate their selfish desires and the resulting fears and angers. Vitaraga Bhaya Krodha. It becomes like nothing. It's so easy to give up the things that weigh them down in the material world. And thus they easily achieve liberation and attain me. So what's the key? To know who is Krishna, that Krishna's body is really eternal, his janma is eternal, his activities, his pastimes are transcendental and eternal. And when we recognize a special place of Krishna, then we will act accordingly, we'll serve him accordingly, we'll engage in Krishna conscious devotional service. And a natural consequence of Krishna consciousness and devotional service is that we will not take another birth, but we will go back home, back to Godhead, and Krishna is there with a whole reception party, just like we see in this painting, and he is the first one to embrace you and welcome you back to the spiritual world, because this is where we belong, this is our home. And so this is a mechanism. Right in the beginning of 4th chapter, Krishna explains the whole process in a nutshell. Okay? Any questions at this point? You can unmute yourself if you have a question at this point, or we can continue. No? Okay. We'll continue. Yeah? Okay, so then Arjuna asks, what about someone who tries to tolerate the selfish desires, but without any specific interest in you personally? You know, Krishna, he asked Krishna something like this early in chapter 2. Is it possible to overcome, and to get Stitadhi without knowing you? Krishna says no, right? He says impossible. So Krishna says, actually, everyone walks on my path, and I give each one the reward that they come to me for. Ye yatha mam prapadyante. So this is the path that goes to Krishna. Everyone is looking for Krishna, everyone looking for happiness. So they're walking on the path toward happiness. The path is the same. Now the problem is that some people are walking upward and some people are walking downward. So the path is the same. They're walking down, some people walk away from Krishna also. But the mechanism is basically the same thing, working. You do some work, you do something. When you do something, either you'll move away from Krishna or you'll move toward him, or you'll stay in the same spot. But you're basically, there's no other path. See, everyone walks on my path, and depending on how intensely they want me and how intensely they show that they want me, I reward accordingly. And what Arjuna asked, right? What about people who seem to walk a path that doesn't include you at all? Such as all the materialists who worship so many different mundane gods. Demigod worship, they just want some money or some enjoyment. Yeah. What about them? Isn't that a different path? Krishna says, I created the path that they walk on. I'm the one who designed it. I empower it to be effective. Desiring various material successes, they make different sacrifices, but it is I who empower the gods to quickly grant the petty things they desire. These are materialists at the bottom you see over here, and they approach different demigods. Ultimately, Krishna is the one who gives even the demigods the power and the resources to fulfill these people's desires. So in that sense, they are following his path also, but it's not recommended, as Krishna says. I'm the one who provides the petty things that they want. So that's good, right? At least they acknowledge there's a higher power. What about those who don't even include the gods? Those people whose efforts don't even include the gods. Those who simply work at their careers. And are they also on your path? They don't care, the demigods, they don't offer anything. What about them? Are they on your path? And Krishna says, yes, actually, even the 4 kinds of careers, I created them, certainly. He says, Chaturvarnyam, Maya Srishtam, Guna Karma Vibhavasha. Chaturvarna means the 4 kinds of careers or social systems. I create and empower the social systems as well. For example, the 4 careers distinguish from one another on the basis of practical qualifications. They come from me, they spring from me. So here we have a note. These 4 careers or 4 social roles or 4 varnas or 4 castes they are based on 4 different personality types. Okay, 4 inclinations, 4 groups of talents. So one is that those are particularly philosophical, intellectual people, the deep thinkers, the guides for societies, they're known as Brahmanas. Those are brave and powerful and they function under the intellectuals as rulers, leaders, and forces. Those are Kshatriyas. And then others are very creative and resourceful and entrepreneurial people. They engage in business, engage in farming, they engage in protecting cows, they generate resources for society. They're known as Vaishyas. And then others, they don't have very deep skills, but they function as employees of the different other classes, mostly of the business class. And those are called Shudras. So now it's important to note, and we've made it here, Krishna calls it Guna Karma Vibhagasha, which means they're based on guna and karma, qualities and activity, not on birth. Now, modern day caste system is a corrupted version of this original system because modern day caste system bases it on birth and it makes it very, very twisted and corrupted and wrong. And it's a kind of racism. That's not what Krishna is describing here. In any society, you will find these groups of careers are always going to be there. They give them the names or not. Right? So Krishna is saying, yes, even these people, whether they acknowledge the demigods, whether they work and do sacrifice to demigods, that's not matter. Even these systems are created by me. In that sense, they're also on my path. So then Arjuna asks the same old question, he keeps asking again and again. It gets annoying, but we're going to ask it again here and see what Krishna said. Well, why shouldn't I give up my social duties as a warrior and take the higher path of directly meditating on you? Put my bow down, take up the walking stick, move to the forest, meditate on you. Krishna says, haven't I already answered this? Don't think that the social system is only for materialists. Look at me. I myself work within the social system. Even though I am the transcendental non-doer, I am God. I created everything. But still I insert myself into the system. Look at me, I'm a Kshatriya. I became king. This is my Dwarka, this is my kingdom. You've been to my kingdom. You know how cool it is. You know how difficult the headache of deal with managing, but I still do it. It's not just for materialists. Remember, even before I told you about Janak and all that, why are you forgetting all these things? So I'm also doing it. I'm setting the example. So Arjuna asks, how can you live in a worldly social setting without becoming affected by worldliness? That's what I want to know. You just mentioned you get headaches and all that dealing with. How can you not get entangled? It's so easy to get ensnared into the complexities of the career. And this is the key of how not to get trapped. And we'll just end over here. Because I have no selfish aspirations behind my deeds. Remember again that point of selfishness? It's not selfish. Karma never pollutes me. Not just me. Anyone who acts without selfish aspiration is never shackled by worldliness. I mean, I am God, so I'll not be tied by worldliness. But anyone who follows my path also, without selfishness, will also not be tied down. Since ancient times, those who desired enlightenment worked in this frame of mind, and you should certainly also do the same. All right, so we'll pause over here and we can have a discussion. Let me see, I can unmute. You can, if you have any questions, comments, please feel free to unmute yourself. Am I allowing unmute? Yeah. Okay. Anyone? Yeah, go ahead, Padma Mataji. You can unmute yourself.
Beautiful, lesson today. I just have one question. Actually, I have a couple of questions, if I may be allowed. So he was talking about the demigods and that he has given them power to, grant the wishes. Why did he do that? I mean, if that is not what we are supposed to go after, why did he do that? Number one. Number two is that, there is a particular god, Satyanarayana. A lot of people do Satyanarayana puja for very specific materialistic stuff like good health or like, wealth or a job, or, very specifically they do that. They pray. If the wish is granted, they go and do that puja, like for child, for anything basically. So Narayana is what I assume is Krishna, or you can correct me if he is not. Is this whole thing is confusing a little bit for me.
Yes, it's a good question. So that's a good question. So what is the point? So your question is, why is Krishna saying this? So Krishna is not recommending you do this.
It's really like, keeping a lollipop in front of a child and expecting him or her not to, use it, right? Not to take it.
Yes, so that analogy of lollipop is not a complete analogy, because see, the idea is that Krishna has empowered his demigods. He's created the whole world as a whole system to fulfill the petty desires of those who want to enjoy separately from him. So the whole system is set up by him, right? And that includes all kinds of flavors of lollipops. Okay, but he also includes in that whole system the option to always leave and go to a much better place where lollipop is not even a concern. It's way, way better. You see, so that's why Krishna, he created the material world primarily to appease or to fulfill the different desires of different people. That is why here is saying that I have created this system. It is not independent of me. Just understand this. I'm not recommending you go this path. This path, this system is created just to fulfill different people's desires. I'm not happy that they're doing it, but they threw a tantrum for this, and so I'm creating this to appease them. That's all. And let them go through the whole thing. Let them enjoy thoroughly. When they realize that they are missing the true love, then they'll turn to me. That's the whole point. I'm telling you, Arjuna, don't get trapped in that thing which is meant for very childish kind of people. There are childish kind of people. And at least when they go through the demigod path, when I talk to them directly, they'll not come to me. They're that petty. For them, that path is okay. But for intelligent people like you, Arjuna, don't go there. Remember, this is like different options Krishna has given. The highest is this. If you can't do this, then do second highest. If you can't do this, do third highest. There's like 12 different paths, different levels. So these are different. So it all depends on how childish are we, how much immature are we. So it's all a matter of maturity. So people fall in different levels of maturity. You, Arjuna, are very smart and mature. Go for the highest. Don't be like those people who still can't think. For them, I've created this. But don't think that that path is separate from me, somebody else created. No. My point is, I only created everything, including this forecast system, including the options that people have to pretend there's no God, or including people who want to accept higher authority, but they're still attached to materialism. I created this whole system for that. But I'm telling you this now because this is the highest knowledge. And I'm explaining these other things to give you the perspective of how this is the highest knowledge. Otherwise, you might get confused. You might think that is also high, and mine is the same level. No, level is different. You see, that's why it's called the yoga ladder. Ladder means that some of the steps are higher and some are lower. So if you're climbing the ladder towards Krishna and you're only 2 steps away from Krishna, then we should not get confused and say, why is Krishna describing step number 2? I'm already on step number 7. No, step number 2 is for those who are there. It's for those who are not yet evolved to that point. See? So our duty as devotees of Krishna is to offer the full perspective to everybody. Look, this is the whole picture. And the highest one Krishna recommends. Are you ready for this? Do you think you are ready? And some people say, yes, 100%, I'm ready. And they will do it. Some people say 100% I'm ready, but they'll try, but they'll not do it because superficially they'll say I'm ready, but inside they're not quite mature. So they'll say, I'll go for step number 4, not step 7 just yet. And some people say, forget it. I'm going to stick to 1 only. It's good enough for me. So you'll always find different groups and everybody's on the same ladder. And that is my ladder, Krishna says. That is my path. So it's a matter of perspective. I hope that clarifies. Yeah?
Yes, very much.
Thank you. That's a great question. And that's a good question because Arjuna keeps getting confused in that line also. And a lot of other students of Gita, even scholars, keep losing that point. It's a very important point, the yoga ladder point.
And Guruji, I'm sorry, Prabhuji, about the point about the Satyanarayana puja is, I mean, the Satyanarayana as a god. Is that the same as Krishna, or is that a different?
Yeah, no, that is a form of Krishna. Narayan means Krishna.
Don't run.
Narayan, there are many, that's why I mentioned.
I mean, is that a demigod, or is that Krishna himself?
That is Krishna. You see, Krishna explains that even if you want material things, only two demigods come to me.
Okay.
So it's better to go to Krishna even for material things. Because ultimately the demigods are empowered by Krishna anyway. So it's best to go to Krishna. So once you recognize that it's coming from Krishna, then it's best to go to Krishna. The demigods will never feel offended. In fact, they'll feel happy that finally he is waking up. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lakshmi Mataji, you have a question?
Yes, Prabhu. You kind of answered the question I was going to ask. My question, I have two questions. So for the people who are following the demigods, if they don't know any better, you know, like for us, we have you, we have Mataji to help us, you know, guide us, you know, we were fortunate enough to have that path, and you know, now, you know, we're on that path. But for somebody who's not that fortunate, how do they know the difference? And then the other question is, you were saying like we have to give them the chance and you know, like kind of, I guess, open their world to, you know, Krishna. But for me, who's just kind of starting out, how do I know when I have the ability to do that for somebody else? Because I feel like I'm not qualified yet.
Very good question. Very good question. So I think, what was the first part of the question? The first part was
for someone who goes to the demigods and doesn't know that, okay, Krishna is the ultimate, I should go directly to him and not to the demigods. They don't know any better, you know, and they don't have a guru, somebody teaching them. And so how I mean, is it their fault, or is it their past karma, or is it, you know, how, you
What
know?
will happen to them?
how are they, why is it that they're stuck in this?
Yeah.
So it could be a combination of many things, for sure. Why are they in that situation? For example, I was born into a demigod worshipping family. You know, we are all, my whole family is worshipping Durga Devi in various forms and Lordship like that. So we're Shaivites. Nothing wrong with that necessarily, except it's not at the highest level. However, in my case, what happened was I used to pray to Lord Shiva a lot. My grandmother used to say, you must pray to God. This is God, Shiva. And she was very pious, my grandmother. She used to encourage me. And then she used to say, you know, make sure you ask that you get a good career, you make a lot of money, you have long life, you're very healthy. And especially make sure that your career and wealth is good, because that's how you can become prominent in society, you know. Otherwise, you know, it'll be, people step all over you. So then, see, I used to watch a lot of movies, Bollywood movies. I'm talking, I was only in second, third grade, right? In the Bollywood movies, the villains are all rich and the heroes are all poor, you know, and they're like, the villains are all, you know, they're going in nice houses. I'm like, why is my grandma telling me I should make a lot of money when the bad guys are making a lot of money? It doesn't make any sense to me, you know, I was quite confused. So then you know what, I said, let me not listen to my grandma. Let me just go directly to Lord Shiva and pray to him. My Lord, I'm a little confused what to pray for. So you please, you give me what you think is best for me. That is the best prayer. Even those who are inclined to the demigods and they will not, they don't want to budge. If they're a little smart, at least they can start praying that, my Lord, whatever you think is best, you give me. I don't have any specific desires. If people start doing that, then that particular demigod will reciprocate and make them Krishna conscious. Because these are all employees of Krishna ultimately. So I am convinced that it is by Lord Shiva's mercy that Lord Shiva introduced me to Krishna consciousness, because I asked for something, what he thinks is best. I don't want to guess what's best. So that is just one example. So those demigods do help. if the person is not so selfish. That's one way. Another thing is, if the person is very strongly inclined to enjoy material nature, then the demigods just keep fulfilling their desires and Krishna supplies everything. And that goes on and on until that person gets exhausted. And that could take several lifetimes, or it can go on indefinitely. That's the whole system. Remember, it's indefinite. So Krishna fulfills all these desires. Krishna arranges for souls to meet devotees. He makes his arrangements. So it's up to his causeless mercy. However, when we are devotees, we should take it upon ourselves, and we'll learn this later in another chapter, and Prabhupada explains this, that the devotees of Krishna are even more merciful than Krishna. Krishna tells Arjuna, don't disturb those people who are absorbed in the demigod worship, who are absorbed in material life. Don't disturb them. Let them be. And what Prabhupada says in the purport, he says, Krishna tells this, but the devotees of Krishna are even more merciful, and they do go out and disturb people. They do go out and tell them that, look, Jiv Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole. Jiv Jago means you wake up, sleeping soul. This absorption in matter is not going to help you, even if it's Vedic. Okay, just chant Hare Krishna, chant the name of Lord, understand who Lord is, understand who you are. So that is our job. And Prabhupada explains that this actually pleases Krishna. And I'll tell you why. There's a secret behind this. Krishna has taken a vow. He's made a promise that he is not going to interfere with our free will. He will never force himself upon us. That is a condition he's given us when we threw the tantrum to come and enjoy separate from him. He said, I won't bug you. I'll give you whatever you need. That's fine. This is a system. This is what you're going to go. It's a pretty messy place in the material world, but and then we say, yes, it doesn't matter if it's messy. I want it. See? So then Krishna has said, I won't disturb your free will. But in his heart, Krishna is very pleased when people turn to him. Now, we devotees have not taken the promise like that, has not made any promise like that, that I won't disturb. We will go and disturb. We will go and disturb people and wake people up. And out of 10 people who we shake on the street, maybe one person will take us seriously. Out of those people who take us seriously, maybe hundreds of such people, one person will take up the process. So our job is to go out and share Krishna consciousness with others and offer it as an option. And Krishna is very pleased with that. So that is our job. Our job is to disrupt their misfortune and inject some good fortune in their lives, whatever way is possible. Now, your next part of your question, which is very important, is that how can I know at my level of growth in Krishna consciousness that I can actually help somebody? How do I know at what point I can start helping people? You can start helping people from day one. You may not be able to answer all the questions. I may not be able to answer the questions. No matter how many years I've been, I may not be able to respond to everybody. But even if I know just a little bit, and I know to whom I can turn to for the answers, then I can go out with confidence. You know, we've had so many, when we go out on book distribution or we go out inviting people to come to our programs, we've had people who've only been coming for a month or a couple of weeks. They join us. And then they knock on the door and the person asks, what is it? We have this card, please come and join us. And if you have any questions, we have this other devotee, he can answer your questions. That's it. So we can contribute in so many ways. We can just go out because we can go out in a group. So at any level of Krishna conscious growth, we can start sharing with others. Suppose I make a batch of prasadam cookies and I take it to my office and share it with 10, 15 people. That is sharing Krishna conscious. They don't even know they're becoming Krishna conscious by eating prasadam. Maybe that will fructify in this life or next life, but it is to the eternal credit. So we can share Krishna in so many ways. Share prasadam. If someone is interested in reading books, we can give a gift of some book that is Krishna conscious. And if someone is interested in coming to satsang or musical things, we can invite them to kirtan programs. We can invite them to home program that we do. We can invite them to this.
Bhakti Vriksha is one of those venues.
Yeah.
You constantly invite.
Yeah, we try to invite new people to see if someone is interested, and somehow, you know, so many people fall in love with the process, and they realize that no, this place is nice. Once a week we get together. It's a completely selfless thing. You know, it's not like, you know, we have to pay some membership fee or anything. We have to sign a contract, and it's very pleasant. It's very cultural. Our children will get advantage of it. So much love. There's so much. This is a nice friend circle we can develop. I mean, so many advantages. So just going out and inviting people to come So there's so many ways we can start sharing Krishna consciousness. I hope that helps, Lakshmi Mataji.
Yes, it was very nice. Thank you.
Good question. Vijay Shri Mataji, you had a question?
Yes, Prabhuji. From today's class, no specific questions, but there were two observations and then they led to some questioning or speculations. One was when Mataji asked that why did Krishna go to the pain of making this system of demigods and reaching out to demigods when the ultimate aim is actually reaching Krishna. And Arjun also keeps on asking the same thing: if spirituality is the key and enlightenment is the key, then why do I go? Like indirectly, everything is the same. That ultimately it is Krishna. Then why go the long route and why not direct? So then when I was going over it in my mind, then I thought that is it because can I say that he created the demigod, the structure of demigods, or the structure or the various temptations or the wish fulfillment desire, so that when I go through the grind, my knowledge would be higher or complete for me to absorb Krishna well. If I go through the grind and then absorb, despite the temptations and despite the urges to pray to certain demigods and get my wishes fulfilled, overcoming them or going through them and then reaching Krishna, would it be more like my purity would be more, my knowledge would be more to understand him better? Is it that way that we all have these temptations and we have to go through the grind to get to the knowledge? And the second thing was that when you say that Krishna made this whole structure, and so then Arjuna asks that is everyone of any all of us on this path not knowing, like they might not be knowing Krishna or they might not be praying to Krishna, but despite that, are they also on this path, or only the Krishna followers are on this path? And then he says that I made it, and even the jobs I made, and knowing or not knowing, everybody is on this path. So what about a person who is not knowing the name of Krishna, or who's not having the love of Krishna, but he's not even polluted or corrupted by the senses? Is it possible that there could be a group of people who might be pure but not be knowing Krishna, but then they would they still reach the would they still be liberated, or would they consequently get more births to finally get to Krishna? Like, is I
Yes,
don't know if I could
good
explain
question.
that.
Okay, so you had a bunch of questions in there.
Sorry.
Good one. No, that's fine. So the first section that you asked, that do we need to go through the full gamut, the full spectrum of grind to become properly mature and properly advanced spiritually? And the answer is no. It is no. Sometimes going through the longer route, actually not sometimes, pretty much all the time, going through a long route is even more risky, because it is not a given that anybody going through that demigod path will keep just going up and up and up. No. Sometimes it's so bewildering that you get stuck on one of those ladder steps and you start moving downwards also. You see, because we get so absorbed. If I do some very successful demigod worship and I make a lot of money or again a tremendous amount of power, I can get corrupted so much by that power.
Like snakes and that.
Like snakes and ladders, exactly. That ladder is like snakes and ladders. That corruption can completely twist my intelligence and direction in life. Think about Hiranyakashipu. He had so much power. He did first demigod worship to Brahma. Brahma gave him so much power. And based on that, instead of using that power to go through the grind and improve himself, he corrupted himself more. And he said, I'm God now. So that sort of thing is a tendency for those of us who are conditioned, because we came down here to enjoy. We came down here to lord it over. So actually, going through the longer grind is more rife with risk than anything else, which is why we should always, first of all, for ourselves, move very quickly to the transcendental path. And encourage others also to not fall into that pitfall of going through the longer grind. At the same time, recognizing that some people will just not budge. And so we wish them well, give them prasadam, and help them as much as we can. We should also understand that not everybody is ready for this, but we should always be on the lookout for those who are. At the same time, always be giving support and love and care to everybody, without any discrimination. You see, because a devotee's heart is compassionate. So that is how we should work, right? So that is that. And then your second part, sorry, what is the second part about? I keep forgetting.
So those who are innocent.
Yeah,
will
sorry,
they make it?
yeah. So those who are innocent, but they are not too engaged, those who are innocent, but they're not too, say, corrupted by materialism. I think you mentioned something like that. They may be fortunate enough to come across the names of God, or they may not. It all depends ultimately on what the Lord arranges for them. And what the Lord arranges for them is really based on the deepest desires in the heart. You see? Now, the Lord arranges the movements of devotees also. We may think we have made the choice and we may think it's random, but the Lord arranges all these things also. So, like when I came across a devotee, it was just completely by chance. They gave me a book, and it was completely by chance, random, but it moved my heart enough. And practically most people that I know came to Krishna consciousness, but they came just such an odd and random way. But they realized when they thought back to it that so many things had to fall into place at the right time for this meeting to happen. And so it is quite clear the Lord has arranged all these very unusual meetings between devotees. And so the Lord arranges these things. We don't need to worry too much about them. And people who are innocent are what's called low-hanging fruit for receiving the compassion of the Lord. People who are inimical, they're the raw fruit. They're not quite ready yet for picking, but the inimical. So innocent and the inimical. And then there's a third category, those are very advanced. So those are inimical, we wish them well from a distance. Those who are innocent, we try to help them as much as possible. And those who are advanced, we try to hang out with them as much as possible to learn from them and to be like them so that we can also make our advancement. So those are the three categories that are described in Nectar of Devotion on how to first identify who are inimical. Like you mentioned, there's some people who are very pure, but they don't have Krishna in their lives. So then it's incumbent on us to try to somehow, in a very compassionate and natural way, to give to them. And if it's not possible, it's not possible. But that is a sweet spot that we try to serve, because our calling in society is to serve society. And to serve society means to serve those who will get the most benefit out of it. Now, sometimes some people look very inimical, but somehow they pick it up also. So we try to give it to pretty much everybody. But if someone is going to be destructive to us, then we want to avoid. So that is our job. So we need to know two things: that we can't control anyone's future. We can barely control our future. At the same time, it is our job to help as much as possible and identify these categories of people and interact with them based on these guidelines. Yeah?
Thank you.
These are really great and engaging questions. All right, so I guess we don't have any more questions. We can do a little kirtan. Is that okay? Any more questions? I don't see any hands. Any comments? Let's start to share.
Very nice discussions today. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for your wonderful questions. They're very deep and insightful questions.
I think as we are learning, more questions are coming out in a different way.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's the churning of the yogurt. When the more you churn, the more butter will come out, and then we heat the butter and you get ghee. And you can offer it to Krishna. So this is the whole process. It's a churning process, and we just started. I mean, this is just the 4th chapter. We've got 18 chapters to cover.
Wow.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, I have one question. It's a small one. I don't know, is it good to ask or it's just in my
Yeah,
head?
go ahead.
In the In the first
Oh.
verse, he said that I instructed the science of yoga to the sun god. Vivaswan, then Vivaswan to Manu, and then Manu to Iswako. Why he doesn't say here, I give it to Brahma and Narada? And why he's trying to say the name of Iswaku and then Vivaswan and then. So why?
Krishna is the source of knowledge to many different sampradayas. There's multiple sampradayas, right? We belong to the Brahma sampradaya, right? And then there is Shri sampradaya, which is Lakshmi sampradaya, and there is like this Rudra sampradaya. Pushti Margis belong to Rudra sampradaya. So these are different personalities that the Lord instructed directly. So he spoke here to Sun God. He also spoke to Brahma. That's the sampradaya. Then he also spoke to Shiva. That's a different sampradaya, but the same knowledge is given to all of them. So when all these different sampradaya people get together and they compare notes, like, wait a minute, it's the same stuff. So there's no difference. It's just that the same material is given to all of them, but they form different lines to different teams. It's like syllabus of classroom. Standard 4 has 4 different classrooms, but they all taught the same things, but they're 4 different classrooms. That's all. And they compare notes, they learn the same thing. So similarly, now in our case, there is an intervention here. So we see this Bhagavad Gita was spoken to who? Arjuna, right? But who else was listening? Sanjaya. Sanjaya at the end of Bhagavad Gita, we'll see in the 18th chapter, he said, by the mercy of Vyasa Prasadat, that by mercy of Vyasa, I am able to understand this knowledge. And Vyasa comes under which sampradaya? Vyasa is disciple of Narad Muni. Narad Muni disciple of Brahma. So you see, so the lines converge. Basically, Krishna is saying the same thing I taught to Sun God, I'm teaching to you. And while I'm speaking to you, basically, this Sanjay is also listening. And Sanjay is going to get that mercy in his heart through his guru, even though he is hearing, but that mercy is establishing into his heart through his guru, which is Vyasadeva. So this Bhagavad Gita knowledge to us is coming through this line.
Gave him the sight, right?
And who's Vyasa's disciple? Madhvacharya. And from Madhvacharya's line, we have Ishwara Puri is spiritual master Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's line, we have Srila Prabhupada. And so we're getting this unbroken line from Krishna.
Prabhupada, then Satswarup Maharaj, and Sachinanand Maharaj, like that.
So it's still
all these
continuing.
are continued.
Evam parampara praptneva. So parampara continues. And we can trace a solid line from my spiritual master to Srila Prabhupada all the way up to the Lord Brahma and to Krishna. Unbroken. That's how it works. Good question though. Hare Krishna. Okay. Yeah. You play Karta, I play Mridanga. How about that? Or maybe Madhav play Mridanga?
Hare Krishna.
Oh, you lead.
No, you lead. Krishna.
Okay, so we'll sing that tune. Here you go. Madhav's here. Madhav!
Good job,
Thank
beta.
you. Thank you. It's done.
Nice job.
Okay.
Haribol. Say Haribol, everyone.
Okay.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna
Jaya Prabhu. Hare
So thank you all
Hare
very much
Krishna.
for joining this evening.
Hare Krishna.
For you also, I'm
Hare
very
Krishna.
happy to have engaged in Srimad Bhagavad Gita and thank you for your kind association. Well,
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you for joining.
Hare Krishna. Sanjay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
All right, so homework we'll text you, okay? We'll text you the homework. I forgot to give the homework. I'll give very easy homework. Almost everybody knows these verses. Okay? Easy homework to memorize. I'll give you the text right now. I will text it. I will send that by text also. But you have to know
Maybe
7, 8, 9, and 10. 4 verses.
4 verses.
7, 8, 9, 10.
okay. 7, 8.
Memorize all of them.
Okay.
Okay, we'll
In
send that.
chapter 4.
The kids will do a great job because they're super smart.
And they have very sharp memories.
The kids are brilliant.
And the parents are even more brilliant. Don't worry, all the parents and kids will do it. Okay? 7, 8, 9, 10. Those ones you must know. Okay? Hare Krishna. Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Hare Bol.
Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Arjun.
Hare Bol. Hare Bol, Padma Mataji. Bye.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol, Hemi Foy.
Hare Bol.
Hare Bol, Kyo Bhai. He's raising his hand in the back. Hare Bol. Thank you. Bye.